morning all. Today my topic is cancer, biochemical aspect. Now first of all, what is tumor? It is excessive cellular proliferation leads to abnormal cell mass. How molecules misbehave in cancer? Human knowledge of cancer is very far from complete, but let us try to understand biochemistry of cancer. Under normal conditions, cells of the adult body only proliferate to replace those cells which are die. If this physiological process derails, means excessive and uncontrolled proliferation of cell occur, which ultimately leads to cancer. The basic mechanism behind this is principally 5 classes of genes mainly involved in cancer formation. Proto-oncogenes, they are the normal gene present in each and every cell which induce the cell division. Oncogenes, which are responsible for cancer. Tumor suppressor genes, they are normal gene present in the cell will inhibit the cell division. Genes involved in DNA repair and genes involved in apoptosis. So carcinogenesis is just a multi-step process with multiple genetic alteration occurring in cell transforming normal cell to malignant ones. Hence a tumor often takes several years to develop. Now first we talk about the proto-oncogenes. Proto-oncogenes, as I told you, it is a normal gene of the cell. It have many different functions in the cell. Some proto-oncogenes provide signals that lead to cell division. Other proto-oncogenes regulate programmed cell death, that is apoptosis. Now sometimes proto-oncogenes converts into oncogenes by any mechanism like translocation of gene in chromosome, insertion of promoter region in gene, insertion of enhancer region, or some mutation in the gene or mutation in the regulatory part of the gene. And by any mechanism, proto-oncogenes converts into oncogenes. Now these oncogenes produce a protein that is called as an oncoprotein. Now this oncoprotein leads to stimulate the cell proliferation and it inhibits the cell death, that is apoptosis. Now these are the example of proto-oncogenes. Growth factors, proto-oncogenes for that is cis, some growth factor receptor like epithelial growth factor receptor, platelet derived growth factor, then some signal transduction proteins like GTPase. Examples for that is RAS and Rho, tyrosine kinases, gene for that are ABL and SRC, some serine threonine kinases, then transcription factors, gene for that is MIC, Jun, then cell cycle control proteins like cyclins and CDK. CDK means cyclin dependent kinases, and last is regulator of apoptosis, and gene for that are BCL2 and IAPs. IAPs means inhibitor of apoptotic proteins. All these are example of proto-oncogenes. Some growth factors are epidermal growth factors, erythropoietin, fibroblast growth factor, nerve growth factor, platelet derived growth factor, and transforming growth factor. Now we talk about one proto-oncogene, how proto-oncogene work. We take the example of c-MYC. c-MYC protein has two function, means it increases the transcription by two way. It is a nuclear phosphorylation protein. c-MYC binds with the another protein, that is MAX. c-MYC and MAX form a complex. Now this complex bound with the DNA and increase the transcription. And one other way, it also phosphorides the RB protein. RB means retinoblastoma protein, that is a product of tumor suppressor gene. It bounds with the RB protein and release the transcription, means increase the transcription factor. In this way, it increase the transcription and expression of target gene. Second mechanism, it causes the histone acetylation. As we all know, histones are present in nucleosome. This c-MYC protein acetylates the histone protein by recruiting the enzyme acetyl transferase. This enzyme acetylates the histone, so positive charge on the histone is removed. So ultimately it will decrease the interaction between histone and the phosphate group present in DNA. So DNA will unwind. So unwinding of DNA occurs, means expression is increased and repression is decreased. So in such a way it increases the expression of target gene. One mechanism by nuclear phosphorylation and second is by acetylation of the histone. This is the normal function of C-Myc proto-oncogene. But when there is some mutation or abnormality occur and C-Myc protein converts into oncogene, in that case, this C-Myc will do this activity at very fast rate. It is unregulated. So, target gene expression will increase and ultimately it will lead to cancer. Now, these are the other example of some proto-oncogene, BCL2, BCL6, CDK6. These are the example of oncogene. Now, at the end, my question is, any mutation in proto-oncogene can lead to cancer? We don't give answer at this level, but we see first next slide, then we will answer. See, in first figure, orange part is proto-oncogene and purple part is tumor suppressor gene. We consider proto-oncogene in car, we consider proto-oncogene as an accelerator and tumor suppressor gene as a brake. Now driver is driving the car. If driver will give excess of accelerator, he is driving at high speed. So at high speed there is a risk of accident. But it is not necessary that he will get accident 100% because still he has brake. Right? In first figure, if there is a balance between accelerator and balance, car will drive smoothly. But in second figure, he is giving excess of accelerator, but still he has brake. So he might not get accident. But let's see in the third figure. In third figure, driver is giving excess of accelerator plus his brake is fail. So in that case, he will definitely get accident. So in second figure, proto-oncogenes are converted into oncogene, means excess of accelerator. But still brake is normal, means tumor suppressor genes are normal. So cancer might not occur. But in third figure, proto-oncogenes converts into oncogene plus tumor suppressor genes are inactivated. In that condition, chances of cancer is very high. So now, definitely you will get your answer. Any mutation in proto-oncogene can lead to cancer? It is not necessary. Cancer may not develop. Why? If tumor suppressor genes are working normal, in that condition, cancer may not develop if proto-oncogene converts into oncogene. So in first slide, I told you that cancer is a multifactorial process. Multi-gene alteration occur in cancer. So only alteration in proto-oncogene, it may not develop cancer. Now let's talk about tumor suppressor genes. These are the example of tumor suppressor gene. First one is RB. RB means retinoblastoma. Name given because it first identified in the patient of retinoblastoma patient. That is one. It is the first gene identified as a tumor suppressor gene. It is a gene for that is present in chromosome 13. It is located inside the nucleus and its function is cell cycle regulation. Second is P53. It is the most important tumor suppressor gene, or it is also called as a guardian of genome. Gene for P53 present on the chromosome number 17. It is present in the nucleus and function is DNA repair and apoptosis. INK4A is present on chromosome number 9. It is located in the nucleus and function is cell cycle, and P53 function means it has a function in cell cycle regulation. BCL2 and NM23, it is present in the mitochondria. Genes for that are present respectively in chromosome number 18 and 17. They have function, BCL2 has function in apoptosis regulation and NM23 has function in metastasis. BRCA2, it is the gene present on chromosome number 17. It is present inside the nucleus and function is in DNA repair mechanism. So these are the example of tumor suppressor gene. Today we will talk about RB and P53 in detail. Tumor suppressor genes are normal genes that slow down cell division, repair DNA mistakes and tell cell when to die, means when to go for apoptosis. When tumor suppressor genes don't work properly, cells can grow out of control, which can lead to cancer. Now in this P53, RB1 and APC, these genes are considered as a gatekeeper because they take part in the regulation of cell cycle, means cell division. If there is any mutation in the P53, it causes Li-Fraumeni syndrome. In RB1 mutation, it causes familial retinoblastoma. In deficiency, in mutation in the APC gene, it causes familial adenomatosis. Familial adenomatosis polyposis. This BRCA1, BRCA2, these both genes are called as a caretaker gene because they take part in the DNA repair mechanism. Any mutation in the BRCA1, it leads to breast and ovarian cancer. Mutation in the BRCA2 leads to breast cancer in male and female. This is the different phases of the cell cycle. This is G1 phase, S phase, G2 phase and M phase. You can see in this there are different checkpoints are there. This one is G1 checkpoint, this is G2 checkpoint and this spindle assembly checkpoint. Now when we enter in the airport, just imagine as it is like airport. When we enter in the airport, at different level, different security checkpoints are there. Suppose, for example, at the main entrance at gate, at the time of boarding, different police officers are standing for checking, right? And they are checking for different things. At gate, they will ask for our ID cards. Somewhere they will scan our luggage. They will check our boarding pass. Same way, different checkpoints are there and they will check different things. Suppose at G1 checkpoint, they will check cell size, nutrient is proper or not, growth factors are there or not, and any DNA damage is there or not. They will check all these things. If everything is alright, then cell will go in G1 to S phase. If any abnormality is seen, cell will arrest cell division in the G1 point by this police officer standing at G1 phase. Then at G2 checkpoint, they will check cell size, DNA replication is proper or not. And at M phase, it is also called as spindle assembly checkpoints. At this point, they will check for chromosomal attachment to spindle. Now, at different checkpoint, who will check all these things? At G0 or G1, we consider as a one G1 checkpoint. At G1 checkpoint, the cyclin D1, CDK4/6 and RBE2F complex is there to check whether everything is alright or not. And P53 is present all the phase of cell division. Mainly at G1 phase, we have to remember cyclin D1, RBE2F complex and CDK. Cyclin CDK and RBE2F complex is present at G1 checkpoint. In S phase, ATM, ATR and CHK1-2 proteins are there. ATM is a ataxia telangiectasia regulator protein. At G2 checkpoints, ATM, CHK2, P53 proteins are there at G2 checkpoint. And at spindle assembly means M checkpoint, MAD2, BUBR1 and APC protein are present at that checkpoint. Now what is the function of RB, retinoblastoma protein, as it is a tumor suppressor protein, tumor suppressor gene? It present at the G1 checkpoint. Normally RB protein bound with the E2F. E2F, it is nothing but it is an elongation factor which is required for transcription. RB protein, it is bound with the E2F in the dephosphorylated state. In dephosphorylated state, RB and E2F form a complex, and in this complex, E2F is inactive because it is bound with the RB protein. When cell cycle is going on, everything is going all right. At that time, cyclin CDK complex will form. This complex become activated, and that complex phosphorylate the RB protein. Once it is phosphorylate the RB protein, this RB protein release the transcription factor E2F. Normally in dephosphorylated state, RB bound with the E2F. But when everything is alright, cyclin CDK complex will come and phosphorylate this RB protein. Once it is phosphorylated, it will release E2F. Now E2F is released, it is functional, so it takes part in the cell division and cell will go from G1 to S phase. But think, if there is any problem, DNA is damaged, at that time RB will not release E2F because cycling CDK complex will not form. They are not in activated form. So RB will not get phosphorylated and it will not release the E2F, means transcription factor. So ultimately there is G1 arrest will occur. This RB protein arrests the cell division in the G1 phase because it gets the signal that there is something wrong. It may be DNA damage or it may be anything. So this RB protein will do G1 phase arrest. Remember, RB in dephosphorylated state, it bounds with the E2F. In phosphorylated state, it releases the E2F. Now we talk about the P53. It is called as a guardian of human genome. It is a very important tumor suppressor gene. As I told you, it present in all the phase of cell cycle at all the time, whether it is required or not. But when everything is going all right, there is no damage, no abnormality, at that time there is no function of P53, but still it is there. So in that time, one more protein is there. It is called as MDM2. This MDM2 will bind with the P53 in the dephosphorylated state. When P53 is synthesized, it is in the dephosphorylated state. This MDM2 protein will bind with this P53 and one more function is done by this MDM2 protein. This MDM2 increase the synthesis of this ubiquitin. It upregulates the synthesis of ubiquitin and then ubiquitin will tag the P53. When MDM binds with the P53, it makes a complex. Now this P53 will tag with the ubiquitin. Now we all know that once it is tagged by ubiquitin, it will go in the proteasome and it is destroyed or lysed. So in this way, when P53 is not required, it is degraded in the proteasome by MDM2 protein. But when there is any abnormality on DNA damage, at that time we need P53. So we have to remove this MDM2 protein. For that, we have some inhibitor for MDM2 protein. That are ATM protein, ATR protein, CHK. All these protein will prevent binding of MDM2 with P53. Because MDM2 protein can bind to the P53 only in the dephosphorylated state of the P53. Once it is phosphorylated, this MDM2 cannot bind with the P53. So all these protein will inhibit binding and it increase the level of P53 in cell when there is some damage in the cell. So suppose there is acute DNA damage in the cell. So first thing, cell has to identify that there is some damage. For that identification, cell has ATM or ATR protein. They are a kind of protein. It is ataxia telangiectasia mutated protein and this is ATR. These are the kind of protein. This ATM and ATR will identify the DNA damage first. So they binds with at the damage site. This ATM and ATR will go and at damage site they will bind. After binding, they will recruit some CHK1 and CHK2. These two are also kind of protein. CHK means checkpoint kinase 1, checkpoint kinase 2. So these four protein will come and identify the DNA damage. Now there is DNA damage, it is identified. So at that time we need P53 in the cell. It is already present but is destroyed by MDM2 protein. So first this protein will inhibit the destruction of the P53. So what CHK will do? CHK1 and CHK2 will phosphorylate the P53. Once phosphorylation occurs, this MDM protein cannot bind with the P53. As we know, because MDM protein binds with the P53 in the dephosphorylated state. Once it is phosphorylated, this MDM protein cannot bind. So level of the P53 will increase in the cell as we need because there is cell damage. Some more protein will come like ARF protein. It also decreases the synthesis of MDM2 protein. So now in cell, DNA damage is there. It is identified by this protein, and also P53 level is high. Now what this P53 will do? P53 will first it will hold the cell cycle. It will do cell cycle arrest. When there is DNA damage, it causes cell cycle arrest, and it will invite or recruit the DNA repair system, DNA repair enzymes. So DNA repair system become activated, they will repair this DNA damage. And if sometimes if damage is very large, it is not affordable to repair, or it is not possible to repair properly. At that time, P53 will decide to do apoptosis of the cell. For that, it will activate the death pathway and it will do apoptosis. Sometimes P53 neither do cell cycle arrest nor apoptosis. It will directly send that cell into senescence phase. Senescence means that cell neither divide nor grow. So it will become silent. So P53 can do cell cycle arrest, then DNA repair. If repair is not possible, then it will do apoptosis or senescence. Now how P53 do the cell cycle arrest? Now we know DNA damage is there. It is identified by ATM-ATR protein. P53 is phosphorylated by this ATM and CHK protein, so level is high. Now next is P53 will synthesize one more protein, that is P21. This one is P21. This P21 protein will bind with the cycling CDK complex and form a complex. Once P21 is binds with the cycling CDK complex, that complex become inactive. Now this complex cannot phosphorylate this retinoblastoma protein. As earlier we see that this retinoblastoma protein in dephosphorylated state binds with the E2F. E2F is nothing but transcription factor. If we want to release this E2F, we have to phosphorylate this RB protein, and phosphorylation was done by cycling CDK complex. But in this situation, already P21 is bound with this cycling CDK complex, so this complex become inactivated. So that complex cannot phosphorylate this RB protein, so ETF will not release. Ultimately it becomes inactive. So transcription do not occur and cell will hold in that phase and cell cycle arrest occur. And first it will do cell cycle arrest, and meanwhile it activate the DNA repair system. That system will repair the DNA. Suppose damage is not repairable. At that condition, P53 will form another protein. It will activate another gene, that is BAX. And that BAX protein gene form a BAX protein. That protein will come in the cell and it will do pore in the mitochondria and lyse the cell. How it lyse the cell we see in the later, and ultimately it will do apoptosis, right? First it try to repair the cell. If repair is not possible, then ultimately it will go for apoptosis. This is the normal function of the P53, either repair or apoptosis. But when there is mutation in the P53, means mutation in the tumor suppressor gene, at that time, if mutation is there, means P53 cannot convert into cannot form P21. If P21 is not formed, then the complex will not become inactive. If this complex is inactive, if this cyclin CDK complex is active, then it will phosphorylate our RB protein and increase the elongation factor, means transcription factor, and cell cycle will go on and mutated cell will form, which may cause cancer at later on. And if P53 is mutated, then it cannot synthesize BAX protein and apoptosis cannot occur. So this happen when P53 is functional, and this pathway will happen when P53 is mutated. So in summary, normal cell, it expresses P53. Minor damage, it will go for DNA repair. Any severe damage, it will induce apoptosis. When P53 is deficient by damage or irradiation, at that time P53 is deficient, so any damage it will not correct by P53, so it may be continuing proliferation of mutant cell and ultimately it may form tumor. So now you understand better this figure. Now there is a mutation of proto-oncogene. Proto-oncogene converts into oncogene, and also there is mutation in the tumor suppressor genes, means P53 RB protein. If both are mutated, then this car will become uncontrolled and it will get accident definitely. So in this condition also only proto-oncogenes is mutated, still tumor suppressor genes are normal. In that condition cancer may not occur. Now some difference between oncogene and tumor suppressor gene. Oncogene, mutation in one of the two allele is sufficient. Oncogenes means conversion of proto-oncogene to oncogene. Mutation in one of two allele is sufficient. If one allele is mutated, then it will do uncontrolled transcription and it will form protein and ultimately it will form a tumor formation. But on the other side, in tumor suppressor gene, both allele must be affected. If any one allele is functional, then also that tumor suppressor gene will not allow to form cancer. So both the allele must be affected in tumor suppressor gene. Now in oncogene, gain of function of a protein means protein synthesis is increased. In tumor suppression, loss of function of a protein. Protein are not synthesizing or it is not functional. In oncogene, mutation arises in the somatic cell, not it is inherited. If mutation is in somatic cell, it will lead to cancer. But in tumor suppressor gene, mutation can be in somatic cell or it can be in germ cell. If it is in the germ cell, then it can lead to, it may be inherited. Example of oncogenes are MYC and RAS. Tumor suppressor gene, we all know P53 and RB. Now this is the mechanism how proto-oncogene converts into oncogene. Proto-oncogene converts into oncogene by number of mechanisms. First is translocation or transposition. Gene moves to new locus and under new control. Suppose in chronic myeloid leukemia, in CML, there is a transposition of gene between 9 and 1022 in a form of Philadelphia chromosome. In this, on chromosome 22, ABL gene is added and it leads to CML. Second mechanism is by gene amplification. Multiple copy of gene are formed. It increases the normal growth stimulating protein in excess and form a tumor mass. Or any mutation in the regulatory part. Regulatory part means it may be on promoter side, enhancer side. Any mutation in the regulatory element, it increase the level of growth factors. Normal growth stimulating proteins are in excess amount, which ultimately leads to cancer. Any point mutation within the gene. Any mutation in the gene may form such a type of protein that cannot be degraded. Means hyperactive or degradation resistant protein are formed that may lead to cancer. These are the different mechanisms. In some mechanism, insertion of enhancer region, insertion of the promoter region, all these can do the excessive formation of the growth stimulating proteins. Now, what are the causes of genetic damage? Mutations are of two types, acquired or inherited. Inherited means mutation in the germ cell, so it is inherited. Acquired means exposure to environmental carcinogens like radiant energy. Radiant energy means X-ray, UV rays, then by some chemicals, some oncogenic viruses. These all are doing mutation, that is, it is called as a acquired mutation. Now this is the example of acquired mutation. Now radiant energy. By UV rays, day by day we are exposing with UV rays, X-rays that cause some type of DNA damage caused by this radiant energy. Example are formation of pyrimidine dimers, formation of apurinic or apyrimidine site by elimination of corresponding bases, formation of a single or double stranded breaks or cross-linking of DNA strands. Now this is the example of apurinic or apyrimidinic site. In this is the ribose sugar, this is the purine and this is the phosphate. And in this ribose sugar is there but nitrogenous base is absent. Nitrogenous base means it may be purine or it may be pyrimidine. So this is called as a apurinic or apyrimidinic site because nitrogenous base is absent due to exposure to some X-ray or UV rays. It is called as a apurinic or apyrimidinic site formation. Now this is the example of pyrimidine dimer. Pyrimidine dimer means covalent cross-link between the pyrimidine. Means it may be cross-link between the thymine. It is the most common, or sometimes it may be between cytosine and cytosine. This is the example of thymine dimer. There is a covalent cross-link between the thymine, two thymine, and form a carbon-carbon bond. Now what is the problem in this? When replication is going on, at that time, this thymidine dimer will be replicate as a single nucleotide base. Instead of two nucleotides base, when replication is going on, that it will read, DNA polymerase will read as a single nucleotide, and only single nucleotide will be added. So what happened? It will do the frame shift mutation because one nucleotide is deleted or it is skipped. So it will do frame shift mutation, and that is very dangerous. Now these are the example of some chemical carcinogens like polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are benzopyrene, some nitrosamine like dimethyl nitrosamine, diethyl nitrosamine, various drugs like cyclophosphamide, diethyl silvestrol. All these are example of chemical carcinogen. Some naturally occurring compounds are aflatoxin B1. Carcinogens are of two types, direct carcinogen and pro-carcinogen. Direct carcinogens mean that carcinogen will directly attack or damage the DNA. Pro-carcinogen means that that molecule will metabolize and converts into intermediate products. That intermediate products damage the DNA. Molecule itself will not damage the DNA, but the ultimate or a metabolic product will damage the DNA. That is why it is called as a pro-carcinogen. Example is diethyl silvestrol metabolized to intermediate products like epoxide, which is carcinogenic. Now this is Amis test. Amis test, it is for check for mutagenicity. If we want to know that chemical is mutagenic or not, we have to do Amis test for that chemical. In this test, we are using one bacterial strain, that is Salmonella typhimurium. This strain is, we are using this strain, and in this strain there is mutated histidine gene. Means this bacteria cannot synthesize histidine as gene is mutated. And this bacteria required histidine for growth. If we want to culture that bacteria, then we have to add histidine in this culture for growth. But what we are doing, we are taking simple glucose salt medium which do not contain histidine, and we are introduce this mutated histidine gene colony in this bacteria in this culture, and along with we are adding chemical which is to be tested, and we incubate for sometimes. After incubation, if growth is developed, that means histidine is available in the bacteria, because at the initially we are adding colony which has mutated histidine gene, but along with it we are adding some chemical. If that chemical will do reverse mutation in that bacteria for the histidine gene, and that bacteria again start synthesizing histidine, then and then they will grow. If reverse mutation will not occur, that means no growth will be seen. That means if growth is present, then that chemical is carcinogenic, mutagenic, because it is doing mutation in the bacteria. And if growth will not occur, that means that chemical is not mutagenic. This is test for mutagenicity. Now these are the example of oncogenic viruses like hepatitis Epstein-Barr virus. It is doing Burkitt's lymphoma, nasopharyngeal cancer, and B-cell lymphoma. Hepatitis B and C, it is doing hepatocellular carcinoma. HPV virus, it is doing cancer of cervix. Human T-cell leukemia virus, it is doing adult T-cell leukemia. Herpes virus, it causes Kaposi sarcoma. Now there are 6 major features of cancer cell. This cancer cell can do local invasion and metastasis. Cancer cell itself has a self-sufficiency in growth signals. It is insensitive to anti-growth signals because it is not regulated by tumor suppressor gene. It sustains blood vessel growth. It can produce angiogenic factor and produce blood vessels. It has limitless replicative potential because it lost the regulation and evasion of apoptosis. This cell will not go in the apoptosis. They are resistant to apoptosis. Now some biochemical and genetic changes in the cancer cell. In cancer, generally mutation occurs, abnormal cell cycling, and chromosomal abnormality is there. Chromosomal abnormality means it may be aneuploidy. This is the chromosomal abnormality. And inactivation of the tumor suppressor gene and activation of the oncogene, that is the main reason of cancer. Then some alteration of miRNA. miRNA required for destruction of the mRNA, which is not required in the cell. So it has some regulatory function. Alteration in this miRNA will also can lead to cancer. Relationship to stem cell. Some mutation in the stem cell also can lead to cancer. Telomerase activity means in cancer cell it is noticed that telomerase activity is sustained, so cancer cell become immortal. Then reappearance of certain fetal antigen. It means some antigens, say some protein are only present in the fetal life. In embryonic life, it is again reappear when cancer occur. Some abnormal sugar change in glycoprotein and glycolipids, mainly on the plasma membrane. And decrease adhesion via decrease CAM means cellular adhesion molecules. Example of CAM is cadherins. Cell-to-cell interaction is by some cell adhesion molecules like cadherin. If these CAM, cell adhesion molecules, are decreased, then cell-to-cell interaction will be less and that cell will easily detach from the tissue. Then they have ability to metastasize. If that detach from the tissue, it will go in the circulation and again go in the neighboring tissue, again growth, and it will cause metastasis. It releases some biomarkers, release some angiogenic factors, it releases some enzymes like proteinase. It helps in the digestion of the extracellular matrix and for metastasis and alteration in metabolism. It increases the aerobic glycolysis, which is called as a Warburg hypothesis. These are the proto-oncogenes, growth factor receptor, G protein, signal transducer, transcription factor, tyrosine kinase, cell cycle regulator and regulator of apoptosis. Cancer cell evades the apoptosis, means it will not go for apoptosis. Apoptosis means programmed cell death. We have two pathways for apoptosis. One is intrinsic and one is extrinsic. Extrinsic means some cell will get the signal out of the cell that cell has to go for apoptosis. In intrinsic pathway, signals generated inside the cell and then cell will go in the apoptosis. So these are two extrinsic and intrinsic pathway. In apoptosis, one protein is important, that is caspase 3. Activation of caspase 3 is important. After caspase 3 activation, cell will go for the apoptosis. So first we talk about the external pathway. As external pathway is there, signal come from the outside the cell. So for that signal, cell must have some receptor to sense it. So that we are calling that receptor as a death receptor. And that death receptor has cellular part that is called as adaptor protein or death domain. And death receptor has some ligand that is we called as a Fas ligand or tissue necrosis factor alpha. Suppose this Fas ligand binds the death receptor, it will do some sequential cascade signaling and ultimately activate the pro-caspase 8, convert pro-caspase 8 to caspase 8. Now this caspase 8 will activate this caspase 3 from pro-caspase 3. As I told you, activation of caspase 3 is very important because it is the final product to go for apoptosis. Now once this caspase 3 is activated, it will recruit some enzymes like nuclease and proteinase. Nuclease will degrade the DNA and proteinase will destroy the cytoskeleton of this cytoskeleton of the cell, means tubulin and all this destroyed by this proteinase, and ultimately it form the membranes are fragmented DNA, shrunken cell, and at the end they will cleared by phagocytic cell. This is all about external pathway. Sometimes when there is, as we talk about in P53, when there is excessive DNA damage and damage is not repairable, at that time P53 activate one protein that was BEX. Right? So this is the BEX protein. This BEX protein will form a pore, multiple pore in the mitochondria. And as we know, in inner mitochondrial membrane, one protein is there, that is cytochrome C. Once this BEX protein form a pore formation in the mitochondria, this cytochrome C will go out in the cytosol. This cytochrome C again activate one more protein, that is APAF1, and ultimately it will activate procaspase 9 to caspase 9. This complex of cytochrome C, APAF1 and caspase 9, it is called as apoptosome. This apoptosome ultimately activate this caspase 3, because our ultimate goal is activation of caspase 3. Then this caspase 3 will activate proteinase and nuclease enzyme, that again that cause nuclease enzyme degrade the cytoskeleton and DNA, and ultimately it will phagocytose. But why cancer cell evades apoptosis? Because in cancer, tumor suppressor gene are altered, means P53 are not formed, means BEX will not form. BEX is not formed, that means intrinsic pathway will not become activated. This is the one reason. And next reason, in cancer cell, some alteration in chromosome occurs, alteration in gene occurs. So it may be some alteration in the death receptor or death ligand. So death ligand cannot bind to the death receptor and this extrinsic pathway will not run. So these are the problem occur in cancer cell, so it evades the apoptosis. Now one more molecule is there, BCL2. This BEX protein, it is stimulated by P53, but at the same time P53 inhibits this BCL2 protein, because this BCL2 protein inhibit the function of BEX. So at one end P53 inhibit BCL2, so ultimately it increases the level of BEX protein, and it is due intrinsic pathway of apoptosis. Then this is all about apoptosis. Now this figure shows why tumor in cancer metastasis occur. Suppose this is the primary tumor. As I told you, in cancer cell adhesion molecules are less, so cell to cell adhesion are less. So cell can easily detach from the tumor cell. Once it detaches from the tumor cell, it will enter in the circulation, right? And cancer cell also produce one enzyme, that is proteinase. This proteinase will degrade the cell adhesion molecule, extracellular matrix, so cell can easily go in the circulation. So now this cancer cell is in the circulation. In the circulation, at some ways, at level of small capillaries, it again stuck or stop. At that time, it will secrete proteinase, some growth factor, chemokines, and again do extravasation and migrate to nearby tissue. And migrate to nearby tissue. In that tissue, again it has capacity to form growth factor, signaling molecules, and some other proteins, and it will start growing. Once it growing, it also has the capacity to form angiogenic factor. It produces angiogenesis and form another tumor mass, that is secondaries or metastasis. In this way, tumor cell will metastasize. Thank you.